Hey everybody, so it has been a slow day here on the homestead. The last, I would say, week has been an absolute blur. One of my little sisters got married this weekend, so we headed to South Carolina over the weekend to spend the time with her. But if you've ever had a homestead or even just a home with pets and kids, you know that the preparation on going anywhere is a feat in and of itself. And so we pulled it off. It was an awesome time. We actually had a friend come with us, and so she was kind of, I called her my backup help, but she was incredible. But they got hitched. They did great. It was beautiful. It was an awesome time. All the kids were in the wedding, so that was chaos, but it was so sweet. But I wanted to kind of just jump on here before we got any later into the month of March and kind of review for you guys how we felt that the pantry challenge went. Spring is coming. We're getting ready to get into like planting seeds, and you can hear them in the background. We got our chicks in last week, which was, they actually came in the day we were leaving, so that was a whole ordeal. But before we start doing tons of spring videos and just like homestead updates, I just kind of wanted to talk about how the pantry challenge went for us, what were the successes, and if we felt like it gives us a better insight into this year's garden season. All right, so just to kind of review, we had made these plans for our pantry challenge to go through the month of February, and then Tim's family had some health issues, so it kind of threw our whole kind of our plan off the sink there at the beginning of the month. But I feel like overall we did stick to our goals. We had 4 main goals. If we went to the grocery store, if possible, we wanted to support local farmers. Our goal was to spend $100. If we wanted some greens, I wanted to try to grow some microgreens. And then I also wanted to really hit our freezers really, really hard and really dig into those and use what I had in those. Because that's the most vulnerable of our food. So we didn't do any shopping at some of the local farmer shops. What we needed to purchase during the month was like coffee and butter, which we could have gotten at the shop, but just because of the way the month went, we just grabbed it while we were shopping for coffee. And some other odds and ends, chocolate chips, I think was something else that I had bought. So most of what we purchased were not available at the local farm stores. We did, even with having to run out of town, we did actually stay under our grocery budget of $100. Our restaurant budget kind of had to be adjusted a little bit because of being out of town, but our grocery budget did stay under $100. I think we spent, between the trip out of town and just some shopping here in town, I think we spent about $87, $88. I know we spent $60 some here in town. And then I did buy some iced coffee and creamer and stuff while we were out of town. So we did successfully stay under $100, which was pretty spectacular. We started the microgreens towards the end of February, but the temperature in our kitchen was just very, very cool. It was not cold enough to keep a fire going consistently, but it wasn't warm enough for it to be like warm. So they took a long time to grow. So we're just now starting to harvest off those microgreens that we started, but they are quite tasty. So you can see we've harvested some of these down here, and then these ones are coming in nicely. The cilantro ones for some reason are taking, and I think it's just because it's so cool in here. They're taking forever to grow, but you can see they're starting to get their first real leaves. So hopefully these guys will be ready soon. I just pop the seed pods off periodically as I walk past. But yeah. So microgreens are doing good. And then our last goal was to really hit the freezers hard. We do a lot of canning, not as much as I want, but our main source of preservation here on our homestead is canning and freezing. I had to do some drying in like the dehydrator with herbs and things like that, but I haven't experimented a ton with the drying. We're currently saving up for a freeze dryer, so that'll help us switch up the way we preserve things. But right now we freeze and we can. So with that, I wanted to do a ton of eating out of the freezer. I had preserved quite a few peppers in the freezer. I had done zucchini in the freezer, some tomatoes, lots of meat, obviously. So I knew I wanted to do that as our primary food source through this process. And I'm super thrilled with how we did. We did a ton of protein this winter, which is actually really good. Protein is a pretty standard diet when it comes to winter, because that's generally what's available if you're eating seasonally. And we actually, this upstairs freezer had it almost empty. We had a couple bags, I think, of jalapenos, a little bit of meat, just a handful of things. Like, it was so empty that like I was like, we're cleaning this out. So like we pulled what little was left and I scrubbed it and cleaned it, and it was all pretty and clean. And now it does have more stuff in it now, but we've brought a couple pigs home, so there's some lard in there now and some peas and things that we've picked up. But I was thrilled at how well we emptied out that freezer. And I know for some people that's like, oh my gosh, you're eating all of your food. Well, that's why we have it. For us, my dad and I were talking, and I don't think he'll care for me to share this story. He was telling me he and mom were working on cleaning out their freezer and eating what was in it. And he found a package of meat that was from like 2003 or something like that. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like a tenderloin, like a deer tenderloin. So it was like, oh, no. I'm like, one of the best pieces. Like not the inner loin, but the backstrap, some of the best meat that you can have. And it like was freezer burnt and old because it had gotten lost in the bottom of the freezer. And so that's something that we're working on right now, is figuring out a way to like rotate our meat so that the old meat is at the top, because we have mostly chest freezers, not stand-up freezers. And so that complicates it a little bit. It gives us a little bit of a challenge. But this upstairs freezer, by the end of the pantry challenge, was almost completely empty. The garage top freezer and our fridge freezer combo was almost empty, except for I had frozen a ton of jalapenos and stuff. So a lot of jalapenos, and we eat jalapenos mostly in salsa, periodically, and some other things. So that kind of, what we didn't use during the pantry challenge is kind of giving me an idea of how we're going to plan this upcoming season, as far as like both restocking our deep bulk items, but also in our prioritizing of what we're going to grow. So I kind of took some time, and this is just for me as a guide, like as I'm mentally preparing for the rest of the year, like, okay, when am I going to do an Azure order? When am I going to do a Sam's run? We don't have Costco, we've got Sam's Club. So it's like, when are we going to do these things? How does that look? So what I did was I went through the whole year, and I figured out when holidays were. So like when I knew I would be wanting to do budgeting for presents, so I wouldn't want to do like big bulk shops those months. And so that kind of gave me an idea of when I wanted to do like my toiletry restock at Sam's Club, like buying, I like to keep 2 to 3 packages of toilet paper and paper towels just in stock, just so I'm not constantly going to the store to buy them, because they're cheaper for us here in this area to buy them in the big bulk. Same with tissues and Q-tips and all that kind of stuff. So then based on like the month, and so like I know we're gonna be eating out of the garden mostly during June, July, August, so I can take that money and allot it in different places. And so that kind of gave me a plan for how I'm going to start purchasing things and budgeting to do more long-term storage food. We don't have something that I knew we had quite a bit in the pantry, but what we don't have in the pantry is we don't have a ton of variety, and we have enough meat to last us a very long time. But things to go with our meat, we don't have a very deep store. So that kind of gave me an idea of some of the things that I want to try to budget for this year. Like we found that we really do like pinto beans, and we like navy beans, and we like black beans. And so I'm going to purposely and strategically purchase those dried beans in bulk so that I can some, I can keep some dried. So it's just very eye-opening. I didn't have a deep stock of flour. I didn't have a deep stock of cornmeal. So those are things that I want to kind of look at as I'm buying in bulk and planning my meals and eating seasonally, those sort of things. So it was a really good experience. And if you've never like forced yourself to eat off of what you have, even for like a week, like, okay, I can't go to the store for a week. Like, it's a really interesting experience. It's very eye-opening. It also forces you to be super creative and get kind of out of that box thinking of, okay, what are we eating tonight? Oh, it's going to be chicken, green beans, and mashed potatoes, or whatever your standard meal is. So that was kind of fun for us. It was a good challenge for us to learn a little bit more about, like I said, where we're at, where we're going, and how we're gonna get there. So that's kind of the recap of our February pantry challenge. I will tell you, there's no way we would have been able to do January and February. So that kind of is like, okay, like I if we wanted to eat meat nonstop for the next year, we could totally do it. My kids aren't a huge fan of that. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of that. I like variety. I like vegetables and starches and stuff. So with that kind of gives me an idea of where we're going. So thank you guys for joining me on this video, and we'll see you in the next one, because spring's coming, seeds are starting, we're back from the wedding, so I can actually get seeds started now. So it's going to be an awesome next couple of weeks as we really dig into this next season, obviously after the snow and weather passes. So we'll see you on the next video. Bye.